last day and we are doing texture. So for texture, the main thing that I'm doing is using some really cool olive green velvet ribbon. I think we've talked about it a few times, or at least once before during the Scraptember, but I love velvet. I love the way velvet ribbon feels. I know I got it from Allie Edwards because she started using it in some of her December dailies. So I purchased some velvet ribbon to use in my December dailies, and now anytime I can use them, I do it, and I just love the way it feels. Now I'm using the spice collection again, and this time I'm using my regular spice kit. And I really wanted the velvet to be next to the florals that happen to be at the bottom of a page or the side of a page. So what I'm doing is extending that page by putting the velvet ribbon on another piece of paper. I'm then going to butt the page up to the velvet ribbon, and then I'm going to trim the whole thing down to a 12 by 12. That gives the illusion that I have the floral with the velvet ribbon edge, and it makes the page really kind of stand out, but I didn't have that 100% before. So I think it works. I really like how it ends up looking. I love the velvet. I know on the video, the velvet looks kind of black, but I promise you it is this beautiful olive green color that just goes perfectly with not only the Spice Collection, but the photos that I'm using. So once I have that page trimmed down to a 12, we're going to start building the rest of the page. And I kind of toyed a little bit with putting this trim down, but I decided not to do it. It was from the branding strip. So these are two pictures that I took actually this weekend at the falls, the Moss Glen Falls in Stowe, Vermont. I went with my friend from college, and she is not on social media, so she is my post-it friend. And we had a 3.5 by 5 inch photos there, two of them, one of the falls and one of us in front of the falls. I particularly like this photo because I'm standing on a rock, so I actually look tall for once. Never happens. I'm matting these photos on a cream background. Having the white of my photo paper around it just really didn't work with what we were doing. Everything else on this is cream. There's not a lot of white, so I'm going to not use the white here. Once I build the two cream mats, I'm going to use this really pretty plum paper, and I'm going to make a kind of combined mat for those. And that just kind of gives the photos a home on the page. I am sort of putting them in the middle, but they're kind of off to the right enough that it gives the 2/3 rule where I've got, kind of the florals on the 1/3 and then the photos on the 2/3. So I will apologize in the middle of doing this. Once again, my tape runner ran out of tape. It feels like every time I'm in the middle of doing a page that I need to kind of get done quickly, my tape runner runs out. So we just put the tape in it and then we move forward. Also, halfway through this layout, I lose my wet glue. I can't find it at all. I have it now, but I just was looking for my wet glue for about 5 minutes. So we might see that also as part of this, but we'll get through that. So I am using the foam to put the foam on the back of this so it can pop up. And basically, this is the texture that I'm doing. The velvet ribbon, it makes texture. I know some people probably are going to do texture paste or use different kind of mixed media, but for me, the velvet ribbon really is the texture that I love. So the other thing that I wanted to do was add texture through using chipboard and acetate and enamel dots and having a lot of different things on the layout. So from the Spice Collection, I have the two phrases, Hello, Autumn Days, and I'm going to use that for my title. And I kind of play with around with where do I want them, how do I want them to look, and I end up wanting them right there on the photo so that the title's right there in the middle. And it's not going to take away from anything because it's on the sides, but it's just obviously what the title is. So that's what we end up doing, and I really enjoy the title and this photo. And part of me, I think we've talked about this a lot, part of me was like, stop, just stop. It looks great. But we're going to continue to embellish, and I think we're going to have a great time. So here is me waving at myself saying, I don't know where my wet glue is, but we're just going to keep going. So after we give up on finding the wet glue, we're going to just use the normal adhesive and we're going to figure out what other embellishments we want. So we're going to start with this floral. We're going to put the floral in the bottom right hand corner. I had stamped on the orange ticket the date, but I noticed I'm going to have to cover it up. So I'm going to restamp the date on this kind of cool olive green tab. I'm going to use that tab up at the top, and I'm going to kind of build a tab cluster. Once again, this is where using those page kits have really made me grow as a scrapbooker, because now I'm more willing to layer things together and put clusters. So I'm really loving it. Now growing out the page by adding the floral on the bottom right, and we're going to just go through the collection and find some bits and pieces that will work with it. As you watch me do this, you watch me put the pieces together, I just want to talk a little bit about Scraptember. I'm hoping everybody has really enjoyed Scraptember. I personally am completely shocked that I was able to get 30 layouts done, 30 different layouts, some of them cards, some of them were my weekly journal, some were 2 page, and that I was able to use a lot of different collections, some 49th and Market, some Simple Stories, some Echo Park, just a lot of different things. Disney layouts, not Disney layouts, and it's been great. I think this is one of those challenges that makes you realize that you need to use your stuff, and that's one of the big things that I did here is I used a lot of my stuff. It's also a challenge that might remind you that you want to get your memories on paper. So I really, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything about it, and I'm so glad and grateful that I was able to play a part of it. So what you're seeing now is me picking out just a few last minute things. You saw me use the film strips. So that's another texture. The acetate is a texture. Now we're going to get some of the die cuts and we're going to add some more kind of more layers on here. So I'm really adding different layers and putting things together, making it kind of a fun not interactive, but just a fun page. So this orange leaf that I add, it breaks as I'm doing it. And I'm like, oh, it broke. And then I'm like, oh, it broke. Yay. I can put half of it down there at the bottom. It ended up being really great because in that purple one that I had one day, because we literally had one day together because of the hurricane and because of everything else, we ended up having one day. So it's kind of a fun thing. I added a floral to each piece. And then the final thing that I'm going to do to this layout is add the enamel dots just for that last piece of shine. So the enamel dots and the film strips kind of add a shine, that kind of a texture to the page, whereas the velvet adds like a softer texture, kind of takes the light away. And don't forget about light when you're thinking about texture. Don't think about shine and glitter and metallics. Those are textures too. So if you really struggled with the term texture, think about using some ribbon, think about using some twine, think about using your metallics, think about some chipboard or some sanded pieces. There's lots of ways to use texture on your page. So after I add these final pieces, that's going to be the end of my layout, and that is the end of my 30 days of Scraptember. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I have gained, I want to say, 60 or 70 followers through this process, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you. Hopefully, you'll stick with me as I do some of my other challenges in October and November. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.